Blimey.
What you got there? Is that more gear?
Oh, not more gear.
Really? More gear? Show me.
Blimey.
I want one of those.
You're having a laugh. In one gear and at the other. Cycle of gas.
Hello, gassers. Welcome to, well, the other side. It's 2026 and all that malarkey. Welcome to January. Welcome to whatever. Winter. Now is the winter of our discotheque. And, yeah. What am I guessing on about? Well, first of all, welcome to Cycle of Gas. In one gear, out the other, etc., etc. So what are we here today for? Well, we're here to completely ignore. What are we doing? What am I doing? Who am I? Where am I? What? So we're here to completely try to ignore any external noises. It's probably going to be the best chance we get all year. And yeah, so where are we? Well, it's 2026. Tech marches on with scant regard for taste and subtlety. And every now and then something pops up to remind you that, you know, not everything needs to be computerized or digital. With that in case, well, with that thought in mind, let's talk about today's sound check. So in conjunction with Pedalscapes, we'll be bringing you the Cycle of Gas sound check and signal chain for a pedalscape that came out a week or so ago, and it's an all analog signal path. What about that? All analog all the way. So yeah, back to what I was talking about, computerizing for the sake of it, digitizing for the sake of it. So yeah, you got it probably from the title of the video. I'm talking about analog versus digital, but I'm not talking so much about versus. It's more like, you know, it's kind of like the best of both, really, isn't it? You know, I've already said about how, you know, I've got to keep things simple to find it interesting. I don't want to spend forever doing deep dives on software-based stuff. Now, I do understand that people are really into that and really like it, and great, good for them. It's, you know, what's the word? Vive la différence and all of that sort of stuff, you know. So, well, here's a good example of analog and digital living side by side. Ta-da! My t-shirt is the Octosci logo. So there you go, that beautiful, glorious analog filth on the fuzz, whether it's the standard or the Tiger mod, and the wacky, gorgeous digital pitch shenanigans. So that, yeah, there you go, living side by side. Which has sidetracked me from what I was saying. So, yeah, okay, if you're into all the screens and menu diving, then that's fab. There is definitely a place for all of that stuff. And I do, as much as I like to keep it simple, I've actually been gassing a bit. Well, it's funny that, and it's Cycle of Gas. I've actually been gassing a little bit on the on a what's it called? Fucking hell! On an amp modeling piece of hardware. What? I know. Difficult it is to believe. I'm just thinking, for convenience, occasionally you might want to just put together a little board. You can go to a rehearsal studio, buzz, drive, delay, reverb, and something on the end, so you can just plug it straight into the PA. So that's the idea. I mean, I do have the simplified DLX, but I really pretty much only use the after the aux return on that. I mean, it's nice, but I wouldn't use that for such an application. So I've been looking around, and there's been a lot of pedals over the last few years that fit the bill. Probably the oldest of which is the one that's got my interest the most, being the Strymon Iridium. So you've got the Fender style, the Marshall style, and the Vox style with some reasonable speaker sim and a reasonable variety of tone. Stereo in, stereo out, very interesting. So I could use that if I wanted to do a quick run through on a pedal. I could use that, maybe, for example, a stereo reverb. You could put it after the stereo out and have all the lushness going to line in, and it would fit nicely on a pedal board if you were so inclined. And listening to the demos of the things, it kind of, in all the demos, even when they're trying to sell the UA or the Walrus pedal, it seems to be just the Iridium that sounds kind of most warmy, sort of neutral sounding. And now I know Walrus and UA and all of the others have got some whiz bang features and probably more on them, but then you're getting into complexity. So a part of what attracts me to the Iridium is simplicity. Sound from what I've heard on demos, but simplicity from the interface. So watch this space. There might be some digital emulation or whatever it is, modeling, blah, 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 in the future of pedalscapes. Yeah, so we shall see. Which brings us on. So there you go. There's analog and digital. So why are people so rose tinted spectacles for analog, for the analog days? Well, I think partly. I mean, I get it. I mean, when we first started doing digital recording, it was a frigging nightmare. Getting the levels right, getting the sounds right, getting the computers to behave. All of a sudden, we went from, for me, my experience, I mean, I did recording studios with bands, and I've got involved in mixing and stuff, but I never did the engineering side of things. But then you get Porter Studios and bits and pieces and live PAs, and you begin to learn the ropes of mixers and balancing sounds and everything. So for me, it was Porter Studios, and I had a fairly decent sound in Porter Studios. And what was that warmth and simplicity? Well, compared to my first foray into digital workstations, I think it was actually, this is how long ago it was. It was a PC-based version of Logic that came with Guillemot. I can't remember. That was a French company who made the sound card, and I can't remember what. Oh, it was, wasn't it? Was it Guillemot? And it was. I want to say Isis, but it was based after an Egyptian goddess of some sort. Don't cancel me. Whatever it was, Guillemot, I better look it up, and I bloody hell. Here we go. It was Isis. There you go. The Guillemot Isis. It was good, but it was 16-bit, I believe, and it was very unforgiving on the input. So, you know, being an avid reader of Sound on Sound, what do they say? Oh, buy yourself a compressor, give it a bit of analog front end to keep the signals from clipping. So I bought a Joe Meek compressor, which sounds great, but the problem is it's got a very slow attack, so it wasn't catching the transients that made the input converters overload and clip, giving the digital harshness. So it was a huge learning curve, big juggling act. Whereas, you know, when you bought, in the old days, when you bought tape, you know, the advice was turn it up until the signal goes red and then back it off a bit. That was it. Job done. And if you knew a bit more about it, you could maybe, you know, just EQ a little bit on the way in. But really, you got that analog warmth. For me, when I was recording, what I remember from analog warmth, it was tape saturation. So, yeah, and then directly into the days of digital. I mean, I'm not knocking it, you know, having racks of effects, but they weren't much got back in the day. I mean, I used to use guitar multi-effects in the loop of the old Fostex tape recorder, and what was it, the Boss ME5 had a pitch shifter on it, delays and reverbs, and to be honest, the delay on that, even though it was basic, was better than the delays that came in the early versions of, you know, Logic and Cubase and things. So it took a while for it to catch up, and so it's not really one versus the other. You know, I think there's probably places that still do record to tape, use, you know, companies like Warm Audio release equipment that sounds like the old input equipment, the tube-based stuff from the 50s and 60s. So it's definitely something that people, I don't know, that people desire, that people want to colour their sound. Also, digital has moved on, hasn't it? Let's face it. I mean, we're at 24-bit, and now we're going into 32-bit. I mean, I've used 32-bit for, I don't know, a couple of years now on the SSL, and super high headroom. But to be honest with you, recording at a high sample rate at 24-bit, I very rarely run into problems of overloading anyway. And the quality has improved beyond. But I'm still interested in outboard and analog and all of that malarkey, particularly when it comes to amps. As you know, I like tube amps. I mean, as much as I'm going through a tube amp, I'm then taking the load out of the speaker into the 2 Notes Captor 8, which is getting ready to go digital, isn't it? But I mean, the Captor 8 itself has got very basic, it's non-digital up to the point of capture, and then inside you can put all sorts of, if you take the line signal, you can put all sorts of IRs, blah, 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 etc., etc. So, yeah, I think basically it comes down to best of both worlds, really. So the gas is strong for one of these little boxes of amp emulation, and I may well do it sometime in the near future. And even if I go for the Strymon Iridium, I could still use that in the current Pedalscapes setup, but instead of going and ending at the simplified DLX, I could end at the Iridium, and well, might be a bit complicated, but as long as it's super clean, should be fine. Or I could just put the effects after, whatever, blah, 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 etc., etc. I think I've gone on enough. I don't even think I made a point other than saying you're just trying to get that idea. I used an emulation of a classic analog compressor on the bass guitar the other day. So I did a track, in fact, related to this, because coming up is the Strymon Fairfax soundcheck for the Pedalscape. But before that, I made a track, and when I recorded the bass line, sounded great. I ran it through Fairfax, so giving it a lot of analog treatment before capture. The bass needed to come up in the mix a bit, so I used a digital emulation of a classic analog compressor, and it did the trick. The pedalscape, to which this upcoming soundcheck is related, I added some saturation, digital saturation, so the digital emulation of tape saturation at the mastering stage, and it just took, you know, a little bit of, it was getting a little bit too top endy. It just took a little bit off it. You know, there you go, an analog signal. The capture of an analog sound getting a little bit too top endy. So it wasn't all warm. I mean, you know, you could put your guitar through a solid state amp and get some horrible brittle tones if you wanted to. So analog doesn't immediately equate to warmth. The idea of warmth is related to things that you did, running it through tubes, saturation, getting tape saturation. So all of those things are kind of what analog warmth is, really. And digital clinical harshness or whatever, it's just like you haven't got that lovely flattering tape saturation to gently compress and soften the harsh edges. So, you know, the harsh edges are probably what was there. Unless you're clipping, then you're truly into digital harshness. So, blimey, here we are, best of both worlds. I think I've yacked for long enough, don't you? So I am going to hand you over to Matthew Elvis Brown in the Pedalscapes studio, where we're doing a sound check on the analog signal path with the Strymon Fairfax. Over to you, Matty boy. Me talking to Pedalscapes and Cycle of Gas about the sound check and signal chain. Hello. You might notice my lips moving, but no sound coming out. That's what happens when you forget to turn on phantom power, which I guess if you can hear my voice right now means we've got phantom power turned on. We've got a completely analog signal chain, so from a guitar up to the audio interface, analog all the way. We've got an eBay Jazzmaster into the Fairfax, into the Laney Cub 12R, split. The DI is going into record. The line out is going into the Shoetone Whirlpool Deluxe, the analog spring and analog trem. Mono out into the Boss DM101 analog delay. Stereo out into the analog stereo return of the simplified DLX into record. Okay, so here's a bit of clean tones. We're going on the neck pickup, clean. On the eBay, the Creamery wide range humbuckers. I think tones down at this point. There's the neck pickup. Sorry, yeah, the bridge pickup. Sorry, that was the neck to the bridge. Here comes the tone. Oh, loads of brightness. Lovely. Neck, nice and bright. So that's guitar, Fairfax, amp. Just a dry signal. Lovely. That was just through the Fairfax. Fairfax turning on now. We got a low gain, low level, and the bright switch is on. No sag. Just setting up for a bit of a lift. You can hear the lift there. Neck. adjusting the master volume on the amp a little bit, turning it down a bit because it's a little bit gainy. So down with the level, up with the drive. Crikey. Almost fuzz-like. And shake your fillings loose. Wow. Really, really gritty. And with that sag. Crikey. It's almost like a power amp caving in, but it's like a Velcro-y fuzz effect. I'll have to try a drive before that and see how that works with a drive and a fuzz in front. For the purposes here though. Nice. Nice. I'm going to back the sag off. Just get a nice bit of warmth. Bright switch on. Bright switch off. You can really hear that's much darker. Bright switch on. You can really hear what the bright switch. You can really hear what the bright switch is doing there. Just lifting up those mid frequencies where quite a little bit of noise lives, but hey, you live with that. A bit of spring reverb into the mix. Oh. Nice. There's a great spring. Mix down, mix up. Oopsie, stop whacking the pedal board can. Blimey. And mix about where you want it. Shorter time, longest time. Oh. Try a bit of trem. Two modes. Oh, I love that. Look at that. Really is a gorgeous thing. So you've got two wave shapes on the tremolo, sine and square. there's the DM101. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm just lost in that delay. I mean, this is an all analog signal path. Fantastic. Oh, goodness gracious me. Gonna hand back over to Matthew Elvis Brown in the Cycle of Gas studio, and pedalscapers, come with us. We're gonna go on a little jaunty pedalscape. YouTube cliche. Yeah, blimey, that was fun. I need to probably explain. I need to learn how to speak. I need to explain a little bit in that when I was doing that sound check, I hadn't turned the phantom power on this, so it wasn't recording me speaking. That's why it came in the form of a voiceover on the existing video, because to be honest, I didn't want to bleed and record the old lot again. You know, it's only so many hours in a day, isn't there? You know what I mean? It's not like I get paid for this or anything. Oh, by the way, join Pedalscape's Patreon. Give us a bit of money in the hat. Not in this hat, but you know. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment down below. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Join us on Patreon. Down there. Go to patreon.com/pedalscapes. Come and say hello to the lovely people over there. Come back, watch another video. My name's been Matt. This has been Cycle of Gas. Hey, in one gear, out the other. Bye-bye.
Blimey.
What you got there? Is that more gear?
Oh, no more gear.
Really? More gear. Show me.
Blimey.
I want one of those.
You're having a laugh. In one gear and out the other.